The day has come. Lighthouse tracking is irrelevant. Not because Valve isn't using it on the Steam frame. We already know the lengths people go to use it with non-Lighthouse headsets. But because there's something that can finally comfortably compete with it. Dare I say, even surpass it. This is FluxPose, and I genuinely think it's the future of full body tracking and maybe even controller/glove tracking as well. Imagine having Lighthouse level accuracy in the form factor of an IMU tracker. Trackers that don't drift, that also can't be occluded. That's FluxPose. Full disclaimer, this is a beta kit that FluxPose sent me for free. There will be some improvements over it on actual production hardware. I want to make one thing abundantly clear. FluxPose may look similar to a Slime VR tracker, but it absolutely is not one. Slime VR and similar solutions estimate position. FluxPose actually knows it. FluxPose is a 6 degree of freedom solution similar to Lighthouse trackers or Vive Ultimates. Because of that, you can get away with using just 3 of them for full body tracking, or you can also do things like track controllers. For example, I'm able to play Beat Saber using FluxPose at the exact same level I can with controllers. If it was an IMU solution, I simply wouldn't be able to do this. Normally, right about now, I'd go into some of the hardware stuff and show you what you'd get in the box. Well, I can't show you that because I don't have what you have. See, FluxPose isn't slated to ship until Q3 of 2026. So what I have is a little bit different than the final product. I was sent a FluxPose Pro kit, which consists of 8 trackers, the beacon, and the charging dock. I was also sent some full body tracking straps, and then a bunch of extra stuff, some of it useful, some of it just cool. Anything you see here that's plastic is 3D printed. Actual production hardware will not be. I will say I'm a little bit jealous of their printer quality. Despite what I have being a dev kit, the hardware feels a lot more polished than some actual consumer products I own. The first thing I thought when picking up one of these trackers is, why does it have a screen on it? Well, I don't think that anymore. When you pick up a tracker from the dock, the screen tells you what body part it needs to be put on. This also automatically updates if you reassign it to a new part in the software later. You can also use the screen to check the battery life by just pressing the button on the tracker. You don't need to go into software like most other trackers make you. The trackers use a magnetic mounting system to connect to things like straps, headsets, and other stuff. It's strong enough that they won't go flying away if you start flopping them around too much, but not strong enough that it's an inconvenience when you need to take them off that thing. This same magnet setup is also how they attach to the dock to charge. The charging dock is also really nice. It charges all of your trackers with one USB-C cable, although apparently the production dock will have 2 USB-C ports so it can support fast charging. The dock is also the dongle that connects all of your trackers to your computer. Any trackers that are sitting in it when it's plugged in can be automatically paired in the software. Another really nice touch on it is that when you place a tracker in it, it lights up green, specifically on the side the tracker was placed. This is really nice feedback to have, and it's even more responsive than my Quest Pro dock is. And then this part on it is actually a button that you can press to see the battery levels, press again to see where each tracker goes, or press and hold to turn all the trackers off. It's also kinda crazy just how tiny FluxPose is. The trackers are flatter than every other tracker I own. Because of how small they are, you can actually get away with using narrow straps instead of wide ones, and everything will still be stable. They also have vibration motors in them, which are surprisingly strong. The dock is also really compact. It's about the size of this GameCube controller I use for my Switch. The hardware is extremely solid, but most VR products start falling apart when you look at the software and, actually try to use them. FluxPose just doesn't. First of all, they actually have a well-made setup guide. Second, you probably won't even need it since in my experience, everything was kinda just plug and play. If your dock is plugged into your computer with the trackers in it, then the software can automatically detect all of them. You'll also be prompted to install the Steam VR plugin, which takes like 2 seconds. From there, you need to select the appropriate profile for your headset, and you'll also have the option to change the tracking and power modes, which I'll be talking about a little bit later. After that, you just need to assign the trackers where you want to wear them on your body. So there are 2 places you have to have a tracker: your waist and your head. FluxPose uses a tracker mounted to your headset to keep it lined up with your headset's play space. Since it's fixed in place, you won't have any drift. When you order FluxPose, you'll be given the option to buy a mount for your headset. With the pre-made mounts, everything is set up in a way that you have to do 0 calibration. You just attach the mount to your headset and select the appropriate option in the software. The mounts are made in such a way that they only really fit on one spot on your headset, and they also come with these cards that tell you how to line everything up correctly. If you're concerned about weight, FluxPose trackers weigh just 15 grams, which is lighter than a lot of microphones people attach to their headsets. There will also be support in the future for creating and calibrating custom mounts. But wait! The cheapest FluxPose kit only includes 3 trackers. But if you need one on your headset, does that mean you'll need to buy a 4th? Nope, because the Beacon is also a fully featured tracker. This is the one you wear on your waist, and it's also the biggest tracker you'll be wearing with FluxPose. It's still smaller than other 6 Degree of Freedom solutions though. The Beacon is also what the power mode setting affects. Quite honestly, most people probably won't need to run anything better than low power mode. On production units, it'll give you a battery life of about 24 hours, and is fine for like sitting or laying around or doing some basic movements. Normal power mode will give you a battery life of about 13 hours, and this is better if you're doing a little bit more movement. There's also high performance mode, which is good for super intense dancing or playing Beat Saber, and you'll get a battery life of about 7.5 hours. It's important to note that that battery life is only for the Beacon. No matter what mode you're using, the trackers themselves will always have a battery life of about 24 hours. I personally have just been using normal power mode because I can't really think of the last time I've even had a play session longer than 6 hours. The tracking quality is stellar. It's identical to what I get with my Vive 3.0s, meaning the trackers virtually are exactly where they are physically. I haven't noticed any issues with fast movements, but it's not like I'm a breakdancer or anyone like that who can really push a system to its limits. One nice thing is that since FluxPose uses EMF tracking, it can't be occluded. I can wear baggy sweatpants, hoodies, or get under a blanket without losing tracking. I can also move around anywhere I want, provided the trackers are still in reach of the dongle. The magnetic field that FluxPose trackers use to track themselves is actually emitted by the Beacon. Since you wear the Beacon on your waist, it follows you around. The trackers can track in about a 1.7 meter radius out from it. For full body tracking and controller tracking, this is fine, since once again, the magnetic field is following you around. The biggest caveat with EMF tracking is that metal can interfere with it. It isn't anything as close to as bad as you're thinking if your mind jumps to magnetometers on IMU solutions though. In my experience, you basically need to be touching the tracker to metal for anything to start happening. It also isn't like the trackers just completely lose tracking. Usually they just get a little bit floatier, and sometimes they may think they're a few inches away from where they actually are. Everything also just goes back to normal the moment you move the trackers away from the metal. In almost every situation I've encountered this, my Vive 3.0s or Ultimates would have been occluded anyways. Realistically, I don't think it's going to be that big of a problem for most people. The absolute worst interference I've encountered is with a bed with metal springs in it. I'm able to exist in the general vicinity, and if things look a little bit laggy, I am in like a completely different room of my house than the receiver is, so it might not have a good connection. I can exist in general vicinity, but if I go and sit down on it, it's actually, I'm laying straight right now, and it's not laying straight. So that's like the absolute worst case scenario, and I mean, I get up and we're fine again. There's one situation that I cannot physically test that can cause problems. Having lots of metal in your floor. And by having lots of metal in your floor, I mean like rebar in the floor of an apartment building or literally just a sheet of metal for the floor. This can cause problems for trackers on your feet, specifically if you're wearing them directly on your foot and not on your ankle. This interference can be avoided by just wearing the trackers on your ankles instead of your feet, but if you do that, you will lose out on foot rotation. Well, this is actually what the tracking mode option is made to solve. By selecting 6 degree of freedom plus IK feet mode, you can actually wear trackers on both your ankles and your feet, and it stops the interference from the metal in your floor. You do need 2 additional trackers to use this setting, but you do get foot rotation back if that's something you care about. In my opinion, this is probably the biggest downside of FluxPose. Or maybe you just won't need the IK mode anyways, because as I'm working on this video, the devs showed off this video of them using a new mode that just lets the trackers ignore the interference. Unfortunately, this isn't available to any of the testers yet, so I haven't been able to test it myself, so I would take it with a grain of salt, but it's just so refreshing to see developers that actually develop their software further. I guess there's very specific object tracking use cases that it isn't suitable for. It's things like using a tracker to track a moving camera for a live capture, or just tracking some other moving object that isn't moved by you. Doing things like juggling will be fine since that's close to your body, and if you're tracking something like a keyboard or a water bottle that's staying in place when you aren't near it, that will also be fine since FluxPose trackers just freeze in place when they aren't in range of the beacon. So obviously I think FluxPose is on par or better than Vive 3.0's or Ultimate's tracking quality wise, but I think it's the same in a lot of other aspects too. One thing it's way better at is scalability. Lighthouse trackers can start having interference problems when you're using too many at once, and Vive Ultimate trackers only support 5 total if you're not on an HTC headset. While FluxPose trackers support having 10 connected to one dongle, and if you plug multiple dongles in, the software will automatically distribute your devices between them for the best performance. Each dongle also only operates on a single wireless channel, meaning FluxPose is really good at not causing interference for other devices as well. There is a single device that FluxPose has caused interference problems with for me. The Antlion Mod Mic Wireless. It just simply isn't usable when I'm using FluxPose. But to be fair, I've had very similar issues occur when using too many Lighthouse devices around it at once. It just is really sensitive to just about everything. If you're someone who uses that microphone, you'll need to find a new solution. I've found that the Hollyland Lark M2 works fine, and I'm currently using the DJI Mic 3 because I think it sounds a little bit better. Ease of use is also a really big positive with FluxPose. After the initial setup, you kind of just open the software, put all your trackers on, and then when you open Steam VR, they'll just be where they should be. It reminds me a lot of using Lighthouse trackers with a native Lighthouse headset, which isn't something I've personally done for close to 2 years now, and it just feels magical. I also think it's better than Lighthouses or Ultimates if you're someone like me who switches headsets regularly. Since they mount to everything magnetically, it takes like 2 seconds to move a tracker from one headset to the other. The software also lets you save multiple profiles, so switching that is as simple as changing a dropdown. This feature is good for more than just switching headsets too. It also saves the tracking mode, the power mode, and the positions of trackers on your body. It's really good, for example, if you want to switch between elbow and knee tracking really quickly. Or maybe you have 2 different power profiles for when you want to save battery. One thing that's really nice about FluxPose's software is that it automatically assigns tracker positions in Steam VR. For some reason, a lot of games still throw hissy fits about this. FluxPose is better price-wise too. The Lite Kit, which is equivalent to 3 Vive 3.0s or Ultimates, is probably going to work out to be around 400 USD after taxes and tariffs and all that fun stuff. You will also need to buy straps, or there's also adapters available that let you use FluxPose trackers on straps you may already have from like Vive 3.0s. The straps being sold are a little bit different than the ones I was sent. Instead of using Velcro to keep them on you, they use a magnetic buckle. There's also comfort straps available which look similar to the stuff EOZ sells. I definitely recommend picking up a set of at least the narrow ones, since they're just so nice to wear compared to wider ones. You're also able to use FluxPose alongside other trackers you already have if you just want to add more points of tracking. They just show up in Steam VR the same way any other tracker would, so as long as you have every single system calibrated correctly, everything will work fine. If you want to order FluxPose, it is a Kickstarter product. They say they'll be shipping in Q3 of 2026, but take a look at any other VR product, especially ones from other small companies, and tell me how many of them actually deliver on time. I will say the developers seem very well prepared, but there's just so many things you simply cannot account for. My rule of thumb when ordering something like this, especially for a VR product, is just never expect to get it on time. The Kickstarter does have pre-made kits available, which consist of the trackers, the beacon, and the dock. The light kit is good for if you just want basic 3-point tracking. The core kit is good if you want to add elbows or knees to that, use the IK feet mode, or have additional tracking points for gloves. And then the Pro Kit is the maximum amount of trackers games like VR Chat support. You will need to add on your straps and then any headset mounts you want. And you also have the option to add additional hardware like trackers, beacons, docks, and all that fun stuff if you want to build off the kits or just make your own. Should you buy FluxPose though? Well, if you're someone who isn't already on Lighthouses, then it's easily the better choice over them. It works out to be a little bit cheaper, you don't have to deal with setting base stations up, and not having to deal with occlusion is a really big benefit. FluxPose also just absolutely bodies Vive Ultimate trackers. Like, I actually just can't think of a single reason to buy those anymore. If you do already have a Lighthouse setup, it might be a little bit of a harder decision. 3 Vive 3.0 trackers are cheaper than FluxPose's Light Kit. You also will need to keep your Lighthouses set up if you're someone using controllers or a headset, since you still need to track those. On the other hand, not having to deal with occlusion is really nice. FluxPose trackers are smaller than even Tundra trackers, and you're buying into a system that clearly isn't on its way out the door. I think FluxPose is great, but don't just take it from me. I don't even know who else is reviewing these things, but that does not matter. What does is their beta testers. This is a group of some of the most hardcore VR users out there. Some of them are even VR developers themselves. If you're in enough VR Discord servers, you probably even recognize a few of them. For this group of people to be saying that something is good, it must be doing something right. I hope things go well for the Kickstarter, which as of the time of this video being up, it's also up as well. I anticipate the primary goal being met in under 24 hours. Somehow the developers are unsure of that. I don't think they realize how desperate some of us are for an option that just isn't Lighthouses. If you have any questions about FluxPose, feel free to leave a comment and I'll try my best to answer it. If there's enough, I might even make a follow-up video. Although, you may be better off going to their Discord server and asking there, so maybe do that as well.